Today we have a Wacker. It's interesting. Obviously it's a concrete saw. From what I gathered, it's has no water port from what I can tell. But that's fine. Just you need a special blade just to, well, you're supposed to at least. But anyway. And the problem is it will run. It runs very, very poorly, and then shortly after it will just stop. That shortly after is either 5 seconds, 10 seconds, a minute. It will rev up to a certain point but then stop. So I definitely think we have some carb work and maybe a fuel tank issue. So let's go ahead and get started. When looking this up, depending on the year, you have a couple different types of carbs that could be in here. Okay. Oh, that one's so crusty. It does appear. Blow it out again. I think it might be stripped. But luckily, the flathead part is okay. Look at that filter. That is not good. That one too. That one looks like it could be clean though. What are we getting held up on? Looks like the throttle linkage. Blow this off. Working on concrete saws is a special type of dirty. I think we're going to want to remove this boot. Too big of a screwdriver. There we go. Now hopefully this slides right off. Is there another one on the other side? Not really. Okay, there's bolts on the other side. I think that would be easier. Got one of them out. So I have no expectation of finishing this today because I don't know what carb I'm working with. Wow, what is holding this on? It just has to be this boot. I don't want to pull on it. Carb is free. Now we just have to work on this and do a little finessing. God, free. I had to remove this cover. It just has like 3 screws. But something I noticed when taking this off is this boot. It's ripped. So that's probably a good half of our problem right there. So I'm gonna take a look at this carb. That's the fuel line. I have a feeling this is gonna be a real pleasure to put back in. This is the line for the pump. The fuel line actually feels really good. I'll be very careful on this piece. You don't want to break it. Otherwise a few dollar project turns into a lot of dollar projects. Okay, I'm gonna blow this off and see what we have. Well, we found out which one it is. It's the Tillotson version. So I believe that's the older one. I could be wrong though. So I'm gonna go on the internet, order this kit, and then see if I can find something about this boot. It kind of looks like it's all one piece. Yeah, I have to do a little research on that. So I don't want to say that's the worst case scenario, that's a Tillotson carb, because it's not. It's a good carb. Problem is, when you go on the internet trying to find the kits, you have pretty much two options. The one that the part number you're supposed to get according to the manual, let's just say it's the beginning of the month. I don't know when I'll be posting this, I'm not going to say what month, but it is the 2nd. And when you buy it, it said it will be arriving at my location by the 5th, which, yeah, sounds great. Buy it. The unfortunate part is it's not the 5th of this month, it's the 5th of next month. And it even says it's shipping from the US. So I would expect that to be overseas. So more likely than not, it would get here early, but I don't want to take that chance. So the other option is to look at the actual carb, and I'm assuming the other end is going to be fine. But my main concern is this. That's not too horrible, but it's not good either. I want to look at this diaphragm and the gasket and see if I can find generic carb kits. So that just fits a Tillotson. HS, yeah, over on the other side it says HS. Fortunately, there's a lot of HS series, but I did find one carb kit that will cover a wide range of HS carb series, so I'm going to look at that and make sure it's okay, because that will be here by tomorrow. So the carb kit, it does come with two different ends. I found another one and I want to look at this end to see, but kind of brought up a good point. When this end comes off, sometimes the gas gets stuck to both sides. This side's connected to the body, this side's connected to this plate. I prefer to take it off the body because it's a smooth surface. So what do we have here? Put it down like that. Okay, this is the one. Good. So I'm going to get everything ordered and we'll be back. Been about a week later. Let's see if what we got is what we need. There's a screen in there, but I'll get that out later. I don't remember. Also don't remember. Okay, here we are. This one looks good. So far, so good. So we do need this one. Diaphragm. Let's take a look. Goes like this. Also matches. So the part that, to be honest, I wasn't too worried about seems to be fine. There's also this one, but we'll look at it later. Okay, the worrisome part. So this goes like this. So we so far have it, all the holes line up. Sometimes these holes, or excuse me, this hole, it's a little passageway, is sometimes on the bottom than where it is right there. Now, I'm not saying it's the correct way of doing it, but you can take anyway, so it's not the best thing to do, but you can take like a pick, a real straight one that's sharp on the end, get it hot and burn a hole in there. Now this is also really important. When you look at the kit online, you see if it has this ridge, because that actually connects to the needle. This is pretty rare, not gonna lie. I don't see this too often. But if you look, this one has the ridge. And we have another gasket. I think we are good to go. So, that just kind of shows you. When I looked this up, The kit on the diagram online was like 80 something dollars or 50, I don't remember. Maybe the whole carb was like 80, but the carb kit was still like, I'd say 30 to $50. This one, made by the same company, however, $10. It's just, I didn't actually look for this specific part number. I looked for a generic kit that came with everything I needed. So this one we have half, one, about 1 1/4. Now, is the one that they call for probably the better quality one? If it wasn't made by the same people, or at least being shipped by the same people, I'd be inclined to say yes. But to be honest, I don't think so. There's a small O-ring right there. Does that come in the kit? I don't see any. I'm going to take that out. One or half. One. Also, they're both a 1 1/4. That's easy. I'm going to put a little over that though, for tuning purposes. It's easier to start if it's too rich than too lean. Okay, so the side with the choke is the high. Oh, it actually has H. Okay. Yeah. The one that's always touching the, or facing the engine is your low. So let's see if there's any difference. The low is a lot longer. Okay. I remember once, a long time ago, I had a Honda Accord, and there was this relay that was going out. I forget exactly what it was for. I think it was a fuel pump. And everywhere you go, it was $50, $60. And eventually, what would happen is, after you turn it off and running for about a while, you couldn't turn it on. It just wouldn't turn on at all. You had to wait like 10 minutes. So, I got tired of it, bought the relay. I went to go actually buy it. The person on the counter went over there and looked it up, and luckily he had one, and he did the same thing, and he found out that if you get another relay, which is the same part number, just called something else, it's $12. So I bought the $12 one. I never had a problem, mainly because I sold the car about 6 months later, but the person I sold it to never had a problem. I do know them. That's where the small screen is. That makes sense. Okay, I'll put this in the carb cleaner. Where's the other? Oh, right here. Okay. Okay, I'll put this in the carb cleaner. Bring it back. Just taking off this, and look at that. It's completely just jacked up in there. It's probably a good reason why it's not running very well. So I'm definitely going to clean that out too. Here we are. Nice and clean. I blew out everything. Now you do want to blow out through here. Sometimes you can remove the screens. In this case, this one's not connected to any of the jets, but if, let's say for instance, you blew in through there, you could potentially dislodge this screen. It did not happen, so I'm not going to worry about it. And they're clean. If they were pretty nasty, then yeah, you're going to want to fix that. But this one's not, so Something I did kind of forget about is this, because I didn't want to put that in the cleaner. I'm going to clean that up a little bit. That is one persistent stain. It went underneath the wire wheel for a while, just not coming off, so whatever. Something I also want to go over is I took this out of the engine. It's pretty nasty in there, so that's going to need to be replaced. It's a Bosch anyway. I prefer to have an NGK. I also got a new air filter because the other one was more penicillin than air filter, just covered in mold. Which I know that's a story that's not actually true, but I get it. It's still what happens. Anyway, I like to use the needle it came with if it's in good condition because of this reason. That's the needle that came with the kit. That's the needle that came with the machine. It's a bit of a difference. So, needle that came with the machine, it is. I'm sure if you took out that little sleeve, it would fit just fine, but I don't know that 100%. I don't want to risk damaging this if I'm wrong. I'd rather just use a good needle, because this was running. It just wasn't running very well or for very long. I also bought a new boot, put that on there already. Wow, this was put in the ultrasonic cleaner. Got a new fuel line, put that on. It's not that hard, just take out the old one, put the new one in. So I'm not going to show that. So that looks good. We're going to need this next. Should go like this. Luckily, there's only one way for the pins to go. Everything looks good. Well, I don't want to say, oops, I don't want to lose this. This part's tricky. It is probably the hardest part of it. Besides maybe the needle. You put it on, and while you're able to see, just need to make sure that the needle fits into that little groove. Like so. And to test it, you can just pull up on it a little bit. And if it doesn't come up like that, you're okay. Don't yank on it, obviously. But a gentle caressing is okay. Now we put this back on. I don't remember what screws they are. They have different threads. Oops. We'll just put the one on that I think it is. This part's boring. Wouldn't you know it? I forgot. The jet. I'm gonna blow it out real quick. Just in case. I suppose that part's not necessary to take that out, but if you can take anything out, you probably should. Now the Welch plugs, wow, I did have some. If you don't, it's a little hard to put used ones back in. You can put them in backwards from how they came in or came out. That sometimes is a little easier and probably the right way of doing it. Technically the right way is probably just to get new ones, but if you were in need of doing it right then and there, that would be how you would want to do that. So now I'm going to put this back on and we'll work on the other side. Now we have that side done. Work on the other one. So we have this piece first, which if you're ever confused, the reason why the surface is smooth is because these are little doors. The reason why this is not smooth is because it needs somewhere to actually move. Okay. So, round number 2 of boring screws. I'm going to be right back. Now we put the little O-rings back. There we go. And the low is the long one. So we said 1 1/4 for each. It's definitely going in a lot smoother than it did before, or out. So we have half. That's 1 1/4. Let's do 2/3. This is a pretty big engine too, so the smaller the displacement, the more delicate I want to say it is, where a 1/4 of a turn is definitely going to make a significant difference compared to something like this, where a 1/4 of a turn may make little to no difference, but we still don't want to have a ridiculous amount of difference between the original and the one we're going to be installing. Okay, I'm going to put this back exactly the same way, and then we will see if it runs. I'm going to put a new plug in there. I already put the boot, I already put the line, I'm going to put the air filter. So this should be a complete and total tune-up with the exception of a couple other gaskets. Oh yeah, which reminds me, the gaskets. These are not going to work. Let me show you. See how I can move it and it's barely, I mean, basically this hole is just not big enough for this carburetor, so I'm going to use the old ones. They're in good shape. Everything's put back together. That's got to be the worst throttle setup I've ever seen. But after swearing a lot and cursing the earth and potentially almost throwing it, it's all together. So let's go ahead and give it a try. I think you could use a little tuning, but this does not have a clutch, it's a direct drive, so it's always going to be running. So other than that, it should be ready to go. So, yeah, if you have a Wacker, you know, consider getting rid of it, but if you don't want to and it's not starting, follow these steps and you'll be able to go through and fix it. Okay, if you like you see, definitely subscribe, put a thumbs up, I would appreciate that. Have a good night, later.